Hello, I am Tamsin, and welcome back to English Sound Building, the advanced pronunciation podcast that celebrates the physical side of language learning, encouraging you to do the work to build muscle memory, and master new sounds. Always remember that successful communication is possible in any one of the thousands of global English accents. There is no ideal. But learning about pronunciation can lead to clearer speech, will help with listening, it's fascinating and it is fun, and that is why we're here. If you find it useful to read as you listen, podcast scripts are available on the podcast webpage and on my Patreon page. That's www.patreon.com/EnglishBrickByBrick, and you'll find that link in the episode notes as well. I believe in free education for all those who need it, so everything on my Patreon is free. Just scroll down on the main page. However, support for the podcast really is appreciated, so a big thank you, as always, to those of you who are able to support me, who are currently doing that on Patreon or who have done in the past. And if you like what I do and you are able to add to that support, whether short or long term, please do. So today we're picking up on the short I and E vowels from last week, but today we're looking at how they behave in two schwa diphthongs, ear and air. We haven't talked a lot about diphthongs yet. So far we've only looked at O, which we first saw way back in season 1, episode 9, Go, Go, Go. And we came back to with that listener request in season 3, episode 28, in contrast with O in Gotta Go. You may remember from that episode way back in season 1 that a diphthong is basically a place where two short vowel sounds combine to make one fluid sound. Unlike the short and long vowels, in diphthongs, your mouth moves during the sounds to make that transition from the first to the second sounds, so moving from the start place to the end place. Those start and end places are pretty obvious from the symbol for the sound. So, with air, for example, we're starting with that short, open and then relaxing the mouth as we make the sound to that neutral schwa position. Try it with me, slowly at first, and then faster. And now doing it without switching off the voice between the two, without that stop in the throat between the two. Air, 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 air. I find both of today's diphthongs interesting, but for different reasons. We're going to start by talking about ear. And there's a reason why I didn't ask you to do this one as the example in the previous bit. So starting at I and moving to which is that most modern British English speakers, including myself, don't actually make the sound exactly in this way. Listen to me pronouncing it as I normally would. Ear, ear, ear. Do you hear an intrusive y between the two sounds? Ear, ear. That shouldn't strictly be there. Strictly, we should move from the I to the without that y coming through. I find this really, really difficult to do, but let's give it a try. Ear, ear, ear. So you might already notice that we get kind of a posher sounding sound by doing that, if you're aware of the subtleties of English accents. And indeed, if you go back and listen to received pronunciation from 50 years ago or more, or if you listen to English by the very, very upper classes spoken today, you'll hear how that sound has changed, or how that sound has changed for the majority of modern British English speakers. So most English speakers now, most modern British English speakers now will insert that intrusive y there, which means that ear is an interesting diphthong because it isn't actually strictly a diphthong at all. To give an accurate transcription of the sound, most linguists will now either use the long E followed by schwa, or they will show that intrusive y coming through, so they will use the short I, follow it with that y, and then the schwa sound. And with these transcriptions, strictly speaking, we then end up with 2 syllables. But that's still something which is under some debate by linguists. For simplicity's sake, in language teaching, we still transcribe the ear sound using that diphthong symbol and consider it as one syllable. So that's what we'll do today. The good news with this sound is that most people tend to be able to make the ear sound with that intrusive y pretty well. In contrast to ear, air is pronounced as a diphthong by most speakers, but this one can be more tricky for learners, particularly where spelling patterns leave ambiguity as to which sound would be produced. So, for example, the things you hear with are your ears. Hear and ear have an EAR spelling pattern. So it's understandable that my learners may make sentences like, I'm scared by bears in the woods, thinking that the spelling pattern in bears will have that ear sound. It's even worse where the words are written the same but can be pronounced differently, like the thing that falls from your eye when you cry is a tear with that ear diphthong, but to rip a piece of paper, spelt the same, T-E-A-R, tear with the air diphthong. The silent R at the end of many air words in English from England can also be tricky if that's something you're trying to emulate. But of course, absolutely fine if you're not. That letter R isn't silent in many British or world accents. Right, I have talked a lot. Let's start by practicing some common and, as they're relatively rare sounds, less common words with each sound. We'll start with ear, and there are two ears in some of these if you listen closely. Listen and repeat. Atmosphere, career, clear, engineer, experience, gear, idea, industrial, interfere, interior, gear, material, meerkat, near, period, queer, real, seal, serious, severe, squeal, theatre, volunteer, weird. Well done, we'll read them again in groups of 4. Atmosphere, career, clear, engineer. Experience, gear, idea, industrial. Interfere, interior, gear, material. Meerkat, near, period, queer. Real, seal, serious, severe. Squeal, theatre, volunteer, weird. Excellent. And now we'll do some sentences with some of those words. As usual, I will read the sentences 3 times, the first time slowly for you to grasp the words and the meaning, pausing for some thinking time after that. Of course, you can start playing with some of the words and sounds during that thinking time if it helps you. I'll then repeat it twice at a more natural pace, pausing after each time for you to repeat. Sentence 1, we have 4. It was clearly the serious engineer's idea. It was clearly the serious engineer's idea. It was clearly the serious engineer's idea. Sentence 2. There was a weird atmosphere in the theatre's interior. There was a weird atmosphere in the theatre's interior. There was a weird atmosphere in the theatre's interior. Sentence 3. There is real, industrial, material, near, here. There is real industrial material near here. There is real industrial material near here. And sentence 4. Volunteering experience led to her real career. Volunteering experience led to her real career. Volunteering experience led to her real career. Okay, well done. Let's move on to some words with air. Again, listen and repeat. Aeroplane, affair, anywhere, care, dairy, downstairs, flare, hairy, hilarious, librarian, millionaire, parent, prayer, prepare, repair, scare, somewhere, square, swear, there, unbearable, underwear, various, vegetarian. Well done. And again, in groups of 4, aeroplane, affair, anywhere, care. Dairy, downstairs, flare, hairy. Hilarious, librarian, millionaire, parent. Prayer, prepare, repair, scare. Somewhere, square, swear, there. Unbearable, underwear, various, vegetarian. And 4 sentences with some of those words. Sentence 1, the hilarious, hairy librarian is downstairs. The hilarious, hairy librarian is downstairs. The hilarious, hairy librarian is downstairs. Sentence 2, they are unprepared to care for their parents. They're unprepared to care for their parents. They're unprepared to care for their parents. Sentence 3, the affair involved various millionaires. The affair involved various millionaires. The affair involved various millionaires. And sentence 4, don't swear anywhere in the square. Don't swear anywhere in the square. Don't swear anywhere in the square. Well done. And finally, of course, let's look at some minimal pairs with ear and air. These, as usual, are just alphabetical. We're going to read the first 6 together, both words. Listen and repeat. Beer, bear. Cheers, chairs. Dear, dare. Ear, air. Fear, fair. Hear, hair. Well done. For the next group of 5, I will read the ear word. Can you say both? We'll do the first one together as an example. Leer. So you should have said leer, lair. Or of course, if you did it the other way around and said lair, leer, that is fine as well. And as always with these minimal pairs, we are getting into higher level vocabulary. If you need to get your dictionaries out, please do that. Remember, you don't actually need to understand the meaning of the word to produce the sounds, but it can be very strange producing a sound and a word whose meaning you don't know. So dictionaries aren't a bad idea at all. Let's continue with the other 4 in this group. Mere. Peer. Rear. Sheer. Well done. Now listen again, repeat again, and see how you did. Leer, lair. Mere, mare. Peer, pair. Rear, rare. Sheer, share. Good job. And for the last 5, I will read the air word. Can you read both? And we'll do the first one together as an example. Spare. So you should have said either spare, spear, or spear, spare. Let's do the next 4. Stare. Tear. Wear. Yeah. Okay, listen again, repeat again, and see how you did. Spare, spear. Stare, steer. Tear, tear. Wear, weir. Yeah, year. Well done. And finally, some sentences with some of those minimal pairs. And as always, see if you can make your own during practice. Just 3 this time. Sentence 1. I'm sorry, I can't hear you here with my hair over my ears. I'm sorry, I can't hear you here with my hair over my ears. I'm sorry, I can't hear you here with my hair over my ears. Sentence 2. They have a spare spear for those who dare hunt deer. They have a spare spear for those who dare hunt deer. They have a spare spear for those who dare hunt deer. And sentence 3. They feared the bears, but fared better after beer. They feared the bears, but fared better after beer. They feared the bears, but fared better after beer. Well done, that is the end of this week's workout. As always, practice as often as possible to build muscle and muscle memory, slowing the podcast down or speeding it up as you need to. If you're new here and you'd like to follow me on social media, come find me on Instagram or Facebook at English Brick by Brick. I'm back again next week looking at another aspect of connected speech. So we've mentioned intrusive y today, which we looked at last season. Next week, it's time for intrusive w. Enjoy sound building, and I'll see you then.